Park. We are standing in front of Harmony Science Academy, Cedar Park. It just sounds very good. Sounds all good. Harmony, harmonious, Science Academy. This is one of 150 plus charter schools that is connected to Imam Fethullah Gulen's network. Tell us about the Harmony charter schools here in the state of Texas.
So just in the state of Texas, there are now 63 Harmony charter schools that are affiliated with Fethullah Gulen's movement, the Hizmet. This is probably the last school that got built. This opened in October, and this is a pre-K through fourth grade school. It has several hundred students. All of these schools, the 63 that are now operating here in Texas, are funded by the taxpayers and the citizens of Texas. This is not a private school, but it's managed privately by members of Fethullah Gulen's movement.
Now, we know that we are looking at 150 to 180 schools. We see the highest concentration here in the state of Texas. And how did that come about?
Well, the Gulen movement arrived in Texas roughly around 1999-2000 when Fethullah Gulen came from Turkey. He was being prosecuted for sedition, trying to overthrow the Turkish state. So he came to the United States. His followers started opening up schools here in Texas roughly 2000. I think they've come to Texas because this has been a perfect storm for the Gulen movement, because the charter school movement in Texas is very, very strong. And you will find that politicians really believe that charter schools are some type of panacea or a way to improve our public education. They've allowed these schools to grow without much oversight at all. When I first started shooting Killing Ed in 2011, they had 30 schools roughly. They've doubled that. They have 63 now, just in the space of about 6 years. And they've also borrowed $645 million in state-guaranteed Texas bonds. So if these people get arrested, the Gulen movement from Turkey, if they're arrested by our government for any types of things, criminality, they have to leave the country, they're arrested, the state of Texas and the citizens of Texas will be responsible for that $645 million if there's a default. And they're now receiving, because of their 63 schools, in excess of $320 million each year in tax dollars from the citizens of Texas.
On average, how many percent of the teachers are foreign teachers with special visa?
We know that the Harmony schools run by the Gulen movement here in the state of Texas are considered an H-1B dependent organization. That is something that the U.S. government gives to any sort of business where at least 15% of all their employees are foreign nationals. In this case, which you'll find here at this particular school, this is an elementary school. So a lot of the teachers will be Caucasians, they will be Hispanics, they will be people that were born here. But you'll find the administration, the top level are all Turks, and you'll find that some of the teachers are Turkish as well. And so in this particular school, the principal is a Turkish man. He is a member of the Gulen movement. He takes his orders from Fethullah Gulen in Saylorsburg, Pennsylvania. And that's who's operating this particular school with the other Turkish people that are administrators and teachers here.
Well, what is the process? Do they have to first show that they can't find any qualified teachers, Americans here in the United States?
You're absolutely right. There is a process where each business, or in this case the Harmony schools, this Gulen managed cult group, they have to have a labor certification that they file with the Department of Labor saying, we can't find a teacher of English, we can't find an accountant, we can't find a teacher of Turkish to teach in our school. And they will put an advertisement in a local paper, but when you look at how that advertisement is construed, there's no way you'll find anyone locally that can actually fit that qualification. Many of these teachers that are coming in from Turkey that are teaching at the Harmony schools are not certified. They've never taught before in their lives. They may be, in some ways very good people, and they may have their, their hearts in the right place in some ways, but they're not really teachers. They shouldn't be teaching our kids. We have a lot of teachers in Texas that need jobs that are certified, and they'll often make an excuse that they can't find science and math teachers. And I find that to be really one of the more interesting arguments, because I'm told by experts that's no longer true in our country. So they've used this process to bring in over 5,000 people from Turkey on H-1B visas to work at their schools, and also the other businesses that are focused in this world of Gulen that we now have in the state of Texas. Construction companies that are constructing some of these schools, catering businesses, bus services, people importing uniforms from Turkey. All of this is part of the Gulen movement and how they make money off of us, the taxpayers here in the state of Texas.
Now, when you talk to some of these parents or those who watch your documentary, what is the general reaction?
They're shocked. They had no idea that this was going on. Part of that is the local media in Texas has done nothing to cover this. What they have done is made charter schools in general look very positive to parents, and they've covered the Harmony schools very positively as well. You have to remember the Harmony schools have been open for 17 years now. The Gulen movement has paid millions of dollars for good PR firms, some of the largest in the world, to get the message out that these are very wonderful schools and everybody graduates. I mean, some of the statistics that you hear about the Harmony schools is all kids graduate and all kids go to college, and those are false statistics. But many parents hear that and they think this is where I want to send my child.
Mark, one thing I don't know, and that is the competition within this charter school operations. Who are the other players who want to open charter schools? Are they being prevented because of their own PR, Gulen's PR, and the bribery they give to politicians, etc., so that in a way they have created a monopoly?
Well, I don't know if you can say that here in Texas the Gulen schools are a monopoly yet. They certainly are the largest charter school chain in Texas. They are growing unabated. Our politicians support them, but they also are supporting the growth of all charter schools because they see this as this kind of remedy to what's perceived as problems in our traditional public schools. And it's really not a remedy at all because these schools don't do any better than public schools in spite of all their advertising. You can look at studies from Stanford and Berkeley. They're really no better, they're no worse than what we have existing in our school systems. However, what they do is they take money out of the system, they use it corruptly, and they use it for things, in this case, that I don't think most Americans, most parents, most people that live here in Texas would be supportive of at all.
This man's schools, his network, Gulen Network schools, have been shut down and labeled as extremists.
Right.
In a country like Pakistan.
Yeah.
All the places, the nation of all madrasas. And yet, they have remained untouched here.
The Gulen movement has established itself here in the United States along the same lines as the mafia did, the Cosa Nostra did back in the 40s and 50s. They're taking money from many different things that seem to be legal. But when you see how they're appropriating or misappropriating the money, and we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars now each year, we don't really know where that money is going. And we need to know where that money is going, and we need to break up this group and send them back to where they came from.
Well, this partially explains the money
Yes.
that is going into this.
The money is coming from us. We are paying.
At least partially,
Yeah.
the taxpayers
Yeah.
are paying this Shady network.
Right.
In 2007, 2008, I had several teachers, Turkish teachers, who contacted me, and they wanted to anonymously blow the whistle because they felt their families were being threatened back in Turkey.
Yes.
And they were really fearful
Of course.
for their safety. And they told me that close to 50% of their paycheck they have to commit to write a check from their own checkbook and donate to various Gulen networks, NGOs, foundations, not only here in the United States, but even in countries like in Indonesia.
Sure. Our law enforcement, our FBI needs to investigate that. They need to do a better job of finding out what's behind this. But I do agree that they're skimming money through various processes. So they're skimming money through these various kickbacks that the teachers have to pay. I've heard they have to pay it in cash to the Turkish administrators that there's actually a bag man that comes by the schools, and each Turkish teacher has to give 30, 40, 50% of their salary in cash to that person. I've also heard that the foreign Turkish teachers here on HB1 visas, they have to allow their tax returns to be prepared by a Gulen approved accountant, and their tax return refund is taken by the Gulen movement, which I don't know about the legality of that either.
Now, you mentioned the FBI and the task force. Well, we know that there have been several raids around the country. Did you contact the FBI and ask about the status?
Well, we did ask the FBI in the case of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where one of the Gulen charter schools was raided. We actually have that in the film Killing Ed. And we followed that pretty closely. It was a very odd situation because even the local Baton Rouge school board members could not get copies of the warrant. They were sealed. And even though the school board was operating this charter school, they had given the charter to the Gulen movement, they couldn't find out what the FBI was doing in Baton Rouge at one of the schools that they were paying for. We know that the local federal prosecutors would not take the case, and it makes me wonder about the politics of this. Which politicians are putting a finger on local prosecutors, federal prosecutors, not to go further with these cases.
You spent 5 years putting together this documentary with all the facts, all the documented facts, all the interviews. How can this be?
In my opinion, there's a reason why the Gulen movement has grown so dramatically here in Texas. And I think that reason we'll know in the future for sure, but I have my feelings about it. And I do believe that there's certain agencies within the U.S. federal government that have had a long-term connection with Imam Fethullah Gulen. The growth of these schools and the problems that we're seeing now in places like Texas are a result of very bad foreign policy that our government made almost 30 years ago. And this goes back to the fall of the USSR and a vacuum that was developing in Central Asia as the Russians were leaving. And I do believe that our government had a role in the expansion of Gulen schools to fill that vacuum. And you can see all kinds of police here, the principal trying to get us off this property. We're on a street right now, but you can see they have the ability to call the law enforcement out against us, right? However, we're doing nothing wrong here.
How about if we were to go and say, hey, we just wanted to introduce ourselves?
Let's go.
Have you
Come on.
heard of-
Let's do it.
Really?
Yeah, let's do it. Come on.
Worst they can do is tell us to leave.
They'll just tell
I
us
know,
to
or
leave.
they can say, well, this is not main entrance. You should go through
No.
this.
No, let's go. Come on.
do it.
entrance.
Are you ready? So this is Ilker Yilmaz. We'll see if he leaves here. He may not want to be on camera. Yeah, there he goes. Ilker! Ilker Yilmaz! Ilker! We'd like to talk to you. Don't avoid us, sir.
Hello, officers. We know we are entering the private property. We were just going to ask for his permission to film the school grounds, and he's not talking to us.
Yes. So what he's asked is he has no problem with you guys being out here where you was at. They were
Yes.
fine with, completely okay.
Yeah, that's
He
public.
doesn't want you on the.
Oh, no,
Oh,
we just
yeah.
wanted to get a specific
Yeah, we wanted to
permission
talk to him
and
before he
interview
left.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he doesn't wish to speak with you guys.
Yeah,
So,
we understand.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, he has no problem with you guys where you was at.
Yeah, we just wanted to make sure that we were outside the gate,
Yep.
so we were public property. And every time we try to speak with one of them and say, can we please have an interview, they're just not talking, and they're calling.
Yeah.
So I'm so sorry.
It happens
they
all
took
over
you
the
away
state
from
that
your-
way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
No problem.
Okay.
Good luck, guys. Have a
Thank
good
All right.
you. Have a
Thanks,
great
sir.
day.
Alrighty.
Bye.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, that's an abuse of taxpayers' money too. Why
It
are they
is.
calling this guy all the way 3 of them here?
Yeah. Well, you can see that it's not really a public school.
Hi, I'm Sibel Edmonds. This Newsbud event was made possible only with our community members' donations. This was just the beginning. So much can be done, and there is so much we can do together. I'm determined to go back to Texas and unseat some of these pocketed politicians. However, this will only be possible with your support. The time to act is now. Visit newsbud.com today and make a donation. Please don't wait. Together we can.